gonna take the Waskey slabs and put on there, and they're gonna drip in them to the pile. And what he told me at the top of the Waskey slab, there's holes where you drive pipe through them to keep them from
Right.
sliding down. And it's all concrete, so you ain't gotta worry about it rusting out in 5 years, 10 years, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
solid concrete.
that's the reason I'm asking that. I mean, they're gonna put divers out there, how they gonna cut the pollens off? They're gonna use divers to cut the pollens?
No, he said they're gonna drive them to the grade with that library. I asked him the same question. He said they've been putting them in like that for a while, so that's what he's wanting to come up with that idea. It's a lot cheaper.
Who's doing it? Who's giving?
B&J, what's the one that does the engineering for him?
Nathan?
Nathan. He's the one
Because at the end of the day, they got to do a bulkhead. That's probably about $250,000 for a
that,
bulkhead.
yeah, they're not doing the bulkhead. I told him we didn't have the 30,000-40,000, but that's what they come back with.
How long is this ramp?
Hmm?
How long and wide?
30 by 24.
That's bigger than what we got right here.
Well, that's what I'm getting
there's
to
now.
ask. That's what I'm getting to ask about, we talk about boat ramps.
This one is 16 wide.
We need to do something about this Cameron boat ramp, which the original was a lot bigger than that, so.
It was double that wide.
We need to.
So we don't have to
Wait
run
on
a
that.
bullet on all that?
If it's under 250, she said we didn't have
Yeah,
to get it because Public Works.
Public Works is 250, you can award it. Now, we would ask for another quote just to
Yeah,
gauge the
just to
price.
get
That kind of money, that almost sounds like it's paying for the Waskey, the ramp itself and the pollens. Materials are high.
Yeah, he got the price on each thing.
I'm
Y'all
just asking.
to pass that down to everybody.
When, I mean, what's the time frame we're trying to get this done? I mean, we just asked,
The time frame is right now is waiting on the Waskey slab. That's gonna be the issue.
If I ain't doing it in the wintertime, it's gonna be,
No, he said he won't have the Waskey slab by February.
I thought you said 111 is,
Yeah, the bottom, look, that's there's two different prices. One for steel and one for
Steel?
steel. Yeah. They give you the price what everything costs.
Well, we saved a whole bunch of money. We did most of the work ourselves, though, when we think we had the contract out. For the slab.
so
I mean, that saves a ton of money.
he's telling you he's gonna drive pollens
Yeah, on the back. Look, he got the map.
for $18,000 to put this ramp,
Yeah.
and then charge $75,000 to install it.
So, I mean, you're just basically asking for a budget allocation.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we would,
There you
of
go.
course, get our project specialists out there to come up with a strategy and maybe a cost estimate. Gary, get help. We have this one. And
There's
we'll,
no way
of
we
course,
can do it
do the
ourselves.
cheapest option.
Don't make me no different. I'm just kind of getting that cost basis where we know where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, it,
We do not take
It's
C.
allocated.
it sounds awful cheap.
Right. But you asking us to allocate up to that.
Up to that amount.
Yeah,
We can do it cheaper, we do it.
I know we can do it cheaper.
Ain't no
yeah, you
way.
can do an allocation of not
Yeah,
to
that much
exceed X
materials.
amount of dollars.
Well,
Waskey ain't,
we don't have
Waskey signs ain't cheap.
Yeah.
If it comes back to be higher, then we would have to come back to you guys for an additional allocation.
Comes back to be higher. I mean,
I mean, if it
willing to do it
exceeds
for
that 100,000, then we would have to come back and ask for, before we proceed. But as long as it fell underneath that amount, then we would go with the best strategy that was most cost efficient.
And that's just to put the slab on?
Okay, that's the Waskey slab, and I think 12 feet of concrete to go from the road to the Waskey slab.
And it's not workable with, like, there's no reason to lease it if we don't do this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we gonna mess
So
with it.
you wanna move this forward to the vote?
Yes, sir. Like to.
Y'all can actually do it.
Well, you do an allocation.
You just make a motion to allocate not to exceed
Okay.
X amount of dollars. You can do it on this one.
I'd like to make a motion to add that to the budget.
Second.
How much?
In the amount
Not to
of
exceed what?
They got my paper.
103
Yeah.
103,
or 105?
103, $103,500.
You're gonna have to do a coastal use permit as well, so
Yeah,
that
she just informed me.
cost is gonna,
So you're gonna do it for 105?
Plus permitting, I guess, 105,000
I mean,
plus
we're gonna-
permitting.
with myself and Gary, we should be able to do it in-house.
Okay.
105 plus permitting.
repairs fee.
Yes,
I
second.
think it's like
Or
$20
second.
fee or something.
Moved by Thomas, second by Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, Mr. Lee.
I want to allocate, I want to set aside $1 million out of the general fund for a rec center and a special fund to be added to in the future. And this fund, in an emergency only, to be tapped for the fair. Until we get enough money in that fund to fund a rec complex, recreational complex.
In that complex, I'd like to see a rodeo arena, a livestock show going in the shooting.
We gotta get the money in the budget put aside, and I don't know how long it'll take us to get to whatever we need.
How you expect to get that much money? How you gonna work towards acquiring that much money?
I will try to allocate money each year to them from the general fund. I'm also gonna try and repass a proposition that we got failed this past week that helped with that. And also, I don't know what the rec center's plans are, but, try to take maybe some of that and the sale of that property, relocate that thing. That's all needs to be negotiated out with the rec board to finalize. Just want to take this first step.
Yeah. But in that first step, you promised that y'all would try to pass a tax.
And yeah, and that part of that, I'll make part of that motion, that we will,
Pass a tax to maintain.
that we will upgrade our maintenance tax to whatever it needs to be to maintain that new facility.
Good question. Now, that money that you're allocating is gonna go to the rec board,
So it's going to be set aside in a fund for us,
special fund.
special fund.
Okay. And then if something would happen, we needed,
Yes.
It would be a motion to restrict $1 million for use toward a rec center in Grand Lake.
rec complex.
And so, and you can't spend the money until a majority vote releases it and directs it for a different purpose. So it'll just sit, and so when you would look at your budget and your financial reports through your audit, it would show restricted balance, $1 million, and then your regular general fund dollars would be unrestricted balance of, say, $5 million.
Same
You always
way
see
we
it
did-
separate.
Same way we did that money we set aside for roads back in the day. Same way. You just utilize it the same way.
There'll be a little stipulation that you can't tap that money unless we all agree for something else, you know, if we could get in a bind. But, and also that they agree to pass a maintenance tax to cover that before we.
And I talked to enough people in the community that seem to not have a problem with that,
Okay.
but they want us to have the money. They don't want us to go right now and tap. Pass the
I
tax.
can understand that.
And want to get the money. It may take us 2 or 3 years to get the money.
How much you think y'all need?
I don't know that either. I know it'd be over $1 million. So I'd like to start there, and hopefully in the future, we can get the rec board to be thinking about a complex that they would like to see, and maybe use some of their funds they have now to go out and, I don't know, do that type of work or whatever, but try to figure out a budget amount.
Probably start, and then hold back there, start moving dirt.
Well, we done appropriated money for that. That's done.
That's,
You have to start digging and hauling them.
Need to figure out where you want it at so we can do the pad while we do it.
Yeah, it is.
I'm getting bids right now. To move it over.
Kind of,
Yeah.
at least halfway draw it out to an open door.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had planned to raise the board farm gonna be, and then continue to.
Put them out, yeah.
So,
I'll second that motion.
Okay, before we start that, and, you know, I'm not gonna have you, what you're asking for, but you have to realize that if you do this for Grand Lake, and somebody else comes up with the same request, that you gotta give them that request as well.
If it's needed, yeah.
If they need it. I agree. All right, I have a motion by, Lee Falk, second by Kirk Quinn, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so you brought up that tax, Mr. Lee. We have to, it's law, you have to wait 6 months to rerun any type of tax that fails. So those conversations will have to wait till next year and another election.
Yeah, we don't want,
It might be 2 years.
we don't want to run a special election.
Right.
I mean, we can't afford that.
No.
I mean, we don't need to do it that way. I'm not saying we can't afford that, but we don't need to.
Right, well, the 6 month puts you past the April election, so the closest election you could even consider it would be October.
Yeah, okay, what we're trying to explain is, say, we gotta get some engineering work about what it's gonna cost, say $4 million, just say $4 million. But when we get close to that 4 million, say 3 million, we need to start working on our taxes for it to be passed before they get the money to go do what they gotta do.
Because this is.
That might be a couple years down the road.
This is the thing, and I explained to a lot of people. We're gonna try to get the funds there. The next step before we spend those funds is that people have to pass a maintenance tax to maintain that. And that's gonna be the key, because if they don't pass a maintenance tax, that money's gonna go right back into the general fund.
Right.
That's correct. And I told them all that, and, you know, everybody I talked to, and I think they understand that. And they don't seem to have a problem with
So, okay, no, it's just so y'all are clear about that.
It takes a little while to tax.
You have to announce 6 months in
no,
advance. If it fails the first time direct tax, you have to wait 6 more months.
Right.
So, you don't, just make sure you are aware of the timeline. It could be the next jury,
Election, that's fine.
tax. It
it.
wouldn't be
Between
this year.
now and when you said that election would be? November.
The closest normal election that you could, if you're talking about the in lieu of tax, the earliest you could run it would be October 2023. If you're talking about a new tax, if you were going to try to run a new tax, I still don't think you have time to run it for April. I still think you have to wait till October. Because you have to
No, I don't think we're
announce
gonna
new
take.
taxes for.
We're not,
Yeah, there's,
because we're still too
it
far
sets, the
out.
rec board has to take its
No, we're
own.
not
Right.
gonna run a new
Yeah.
tax now. I mean, we
Might be a couple
probably
years.
gonna have.
So you're thinking October is your earliest you could ever consider having something on the ballot?
But I really want to press the issue with the staff and who, and the sheriff and anybody concerning this proposition that failed, to get it right, get it publicized right, and at the earliest convenience, we need to rerun that. We don't want to spend a whole bunch of money doing a special thing, run it with another election. We need to make sure all the parties are aware, are satisfied, and
Okay, so not to overcomplicate things, but you do need the courthouse and jail normal tax renewal expires in 2024. So you'll have, as a jury, you're gonna have a decision to make. Do you want to focus on the courthouse and jail and the health unit renewals and run those and give yourself time if they fail, since everyone's so anti-tax right now, if they fail the courthouse and jail renewal and the health unit renewal, you gotta still wait 6 months to run it again. And like I said, it'll expire in 2024. So are you gonna focus on getting those renewed first and then maybe look at something in 2025? Or are you gonna try the in lieu of again? If it fails, then worry about
Yeah,
the.
but then 2025 is gonna back us.
Because it
I
didn't-
wanna have something.
Them
Hopefully
taxes
by
failed,
that time, we
courthouse and jail taxes failed.
The road and bridge tax
Should've
barely
been
passed
all
and it was a renewal.
courthouse and
I'm very concerned about the courthouse and jail tax and
We
health unit tax
cannot
passing.
afford to let that happen. The courthouse and jail it's got to go through, all right?
Road and bridge only passed by 300 votes. And we just need to be realistic about our voters and their mindset on taxes, tax renewals. Road and Bridge tax failed in Beauregard Parish this year.
I really think we had a component in the road and bridge that fell in with that Proposition 1 that I don't think would be there next time.
Okay.
At least I would hope that it would be there next time. And I'll hope those parties can come and sit down at the table and work this out to where we got everybody united, talking about the same issue, talking about the same thing, and everybody's united in this. And I think if we do that, we'll pass the tax. And it's not a new tax, it's just a tax that we renew it.
So by February at the latest, I think you would need to start any sort of tax public notices. So that's when a decision needs to be made in
I'm
February.
quitting here to dry. I start working
In
on
order
it
to
and
get
then
together and
follow.
do so.
With the Grand Lake Rate Board,
We're halfway, no, talking in the little tax.
oh, okay.
How quick can you turn that around? You said it's gotta wait 6 months. Can you work within the next 6 months to have all that ironed out with all parties in community meetings, parties involved, where we're not fighting one another, trying to get something done?
Certainly, I mean, I can work with them if there's a lot of other personalities involved, we can certainly try.
But the thing is, we can't afford to lose courthouse and jail tax.
Cannot.
Because if that fails, we shut everything down except the courthouse and jail.
This does not, I wouldn't want this to jeopardize that. If there's time to do this and still have time to run it, if it fails the other one, that's fine. But if you don't have
We'll work on the
time,
timeline.
if you don't have the timeline set, then we can't jeopardize.
Yes, sir.
Who knows if that's even gonna pass? I mean,
Let's talk about this, we can talk about this later, because there's no vote on this. Let's try to get on through
Yeah.
our meeting here, please.
Because we got to quit.
We still gotta go in executive session.
You wasting my time?
No, I'm not wasting your time.
Okay. All right, I'm done.
Okay, so we finally have all of our buildings released from the insurance litigators. They had to, if you recall, they had to come and reassess every building that they're filing litigation against. They prioritized fire stations and everything else, so all of the courthouse square buildings were the last to be evaluated. They finally released the buildings and they're going through mediation, but in the interim, now that we have control of the buildings again, we have 2 bid packets that are ready to be advertised. The first one, which is probably the least complicated one, is the jail. It's essentially just repairing what was already there. They have some cement that needs to be replaced, some lighting, masonry, typical things that you would expect because of the flood. So the cost estimate to repair the jail to pre-storm conditions is set at $673,000. So we are here to ask for authority to bid to repair the jail. They do have $1.8 million in that courthouse and jail maintenance account is considered surplus. They are adopting a budget that is balanced and still has a surplus. So there's plenty of funds that you could allocate to cover this, pending the insurance, whatever extra insurance
That's
money
what I'm
we
saying,
get.
they're gonna get insurance money of some sort.
They should, but they have enough money to repair it now and not have to wait for insurance.
Let's get it.
Yeah.
And that would give you plenty of money to let go to take care of courthouse issues.
We're talking about courthouse second, yes.
Yeah.
But yes, you have enough, they have enough money to do both.
Need a motion on that or no?
So that's for the jail, yes, authority to bid, for
Make a
the
motion.
jail.
Have a motion by Mr.
I'll
Trahan,
second it.
second by Mr. Dupont, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so the courthouse is a little bit more complex. You kind of have to make a decision. Because of the basement, we had to separate it. the total cost to fix the courthouse, if you restored the basement and everything, was estimated at $1.3 million. And that's not counting the new roof we've already replaced on it after the storm. So we asked them to be creative and separate the basement from the normal repairs, because we feel like there's some of the stuff in the basement that maybe, if it was too expensive, could wait until we got insurance money in case money got tight. So right now, if you separate it, the base bid to fix the courthouse is it's $542,000. The basement as an alternate is $793,000. So if we bid it as a base and then the basement as an alternate together, that's $1.4 million. But if the alternate comes up way too expensive, we can always reject the alternate and still accept the base bid, and you just fix the courthouse floors 2 and 3. And then the basement could just wait, and
What is
or
the-
we could maybe outsource it separately.
What's the problem with the basement?
So the basement, depending on who you ask, if Miles will let us, which he has told us that he could as a CBO, if we don't fix the bathrooms and you just go in the basement and it has already been cleaned out, if they just go in and block it off, maybe put some doors in it to where you keep the basement closed off from the rest of the building, you could do that at a much cheaper rate. But if you want to go in and repaint all of the basement, repair the bathroom, repair the elevator access down there, it's going to drive up the cost. All the lighting, because it was completely flooded. I mean, it just depends on, what you want to see from the courthouse, and depending on the funds. If we get all the insurance money, we could always go fix the basement later.
Judge is here, and Miss Susan's here. What's y'all's thoughts on this?
I think the basement's being used just like she said right now. It's closed off. No one's using those bathrooms in the basement.
Okay.
That-
So you're
that's
okay with
been
leaving
locked
that
to
alone right now?
They haven't been used since we moved out.
Is there any?
Actually, they weren't used, we were using a porta potty. They've
Right.
never been repaired since we
So,
moved.
Yes, it's real.
so what y'all wanna do with the basement, you wanna,
We're not using the
Keep it
basement.
abandoned.
Not at all.
but I
Do you
mean,
have any intentions of using?
I mean, I don't know if James
No.
uses the basement for anything, but
Cement.
I do not use the basement.
I
don't believe you can
Because
according
when
to
we-
me.
Yeah, that was my understanding. It was never repaired because of the cost to flood proof it. You can't flood proof it. Danny, is that right?
that's right.
So we can put that off, Judge,
Until they get injured.
until get interest money, then we'll fix it.
No one goes down
I
there.
don't even know
Might not
that
So
it
you
is.
don't want to fix it at all.
No one uses that, that,
What you-
I don't know what part of it we would need to leave open for repairs for like.
Cause it almost needs to be climate
stuff like
control to
that.
keep mold and stuff from growing, I mean.
Right,
Air
yeah.
conditioning, but
You got climate control it.
Okay, I'm understanding that you just want to repair the top floor of
The
the.
top 2 floors is roughly $600,000.
Right,
And
and just keep air conditioning going to the bottom to make sure the mold and everything's done.
You got climate control it to keep mold from growing.
So,
I'll make
okay,
that.
that's what
and
I'm-
it has its separate,
I have a
it's
motion by,
electrical and
Mr.
air
McGee,
conditioning.
second,
It was
by Mr.
separated
Gidget, all
after
in
Rita,
favor? Any
so that's all
opposed?
separate.
Motion carries.
now,
okay. That's
Yeah.
the, so I know y'all are probably interested in the East Annex and the West Annex. We did issue purchase orders to just do the electrical, the lighting. So all of the lighting underneath parking area and the stair lighting, we're just waiting on the contractor to come fix that. They're actually fixing all 4 buildings for the lighting area. But for any other repairs, we're waiting on the insurance, the insurance money before we proceed with any bidding on that. And in the,
Remember, any kind of hazard on any of these buildings has got to be attended to as soon as we find out about it. So our maintenance department for these buildings needs to stay on top of that. And anytime there's a hazard that appears on one of these buildings that hasn't been fixed, they need to take action, and don't come asking us to they need to take action and prevent an accident from happening.
okay. So I missed the motion with the courthouse. Y'all want to just do the base bid and not even bid the basement as an alternate? I want to just do base bid?
Correct.
All right, that was the only two things I had.
I make a motion, we go into executive
I
session.
have a motion to go into executive session by Mr. Quinn, second by Mr. Dupont, all in favor? Any opposed? Roll call.
Yes.
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 We're now in executive session.
I think I said it. Yeah.
We're calling it. Get your history down.
President. Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
A motion moved, come out of executive session by Mr. McGee, second by Mr. Quinn, all in favor?
Aye. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
We're back out of executive session.
No action taken.
No action taken.
Second. Don't have a second. Go ahead. Second.
I got a motion to adjourn by Mr. Falk,
Second.
second by Mr. Quinn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we did say.
We're meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. We gotta take 5 minutes, y'all. We'll be right back, okay?
Don't go away.
After break.